Hello and welcome to Bastion and Broadcasting. My name is Chris McDowell, and tonight we are looking through an RPG called Fist. But obviously, if you're watching this on stream, you've seen there has just been a trailer for Mythic Bastion, and I'm going to apologise because I'm going to be unbearable now for the next 2 months or so while we're getting ready to launch the Mythic Bastion and Kickstarter. But I'll get it out of the way. Mythic Bastion and is coming to Kickstarter on November the 7th. But that's enough talking about that. For the rest of tonight, I am going to be talking about Fist, which is let's just get straight into it. It's an RPG that I had not heard of. To be completely honest, I had not heard of it until I think it was last week. Whenever I tweeted about the Kickstarter, I literally saw the Kickstarter, and I looked through it and I thought this looks really cool. And then I saw that the entire document was like free, essentially. For the duration of the Kickstarter campaign, you could just go on itch and I think download the whole thing. It turned out I already had the whole thing because I bought it in like 3 different bundles, but I hadn't actually looked at it. And when I looked through it, I genuinely, this sounds like a sort of hyperbole review thing. And for full transparency, this is not a paid review. I backed the Kickstarter with my own money. I got in touch with the people who made the game and said, is it okay for me to do a stream? But there's no, this is just taken out of my own initiative. And genuinely, when I read through it, it was one of these ones that felt so good immediately that it was actually kind of annoying. And then when I had to go back to working on Mythic Bastion Land and going back to writing my own stuff for the rest of the day, I was like, not for the whole day, but initially I was just like, oh, Fist just does so many things really well, and it's got so many cool ideas in it. It was daunting to go back to writing stuff. Now, when I had this very positive first impression, I thought I'll keep this aside. I won't read all the details. I will read through it on I'll read through it on a stream and have a look through it there. So it might be once we look at it, it's shit. So you never know. I'm confident that's not going to be the case. So, Fist is freelance infantry strike team, and the sort of the elevator pitch of this is a paranormal mercenary role-playing game. There is a very cool trailer on the Kickstarter that I think is worth watching. This is written by various people under the name of Claymore. So you've got B. Everett Dutton, Ripley Caldwell, T.H. Coughlin, and Back Alley Coalition, Max Stanley. Lots of people were involved in this, so go and read the credits. But yeah, Claymore is sort of the collective author, I guess, of this book. Okay, so this is it's 162 pages. I'm not going to go through and read every page, but I want to try and sort of talk about the things that immediately grabbed me about this game, because I read through lots of games and it's not often that one grabs me and makes me immediately want to play it. There are ones that I'll read through and I'll think, okay, I can see what's going on here, but it's going to take me a bit of time to grasp this. But Fist felt very immediate. So let's crack on. So, players. Getting started. Play is a conversation. There's lots of this kind of guidance, this kind of principle style guidance, which I like. It seems to do that thing that I'm always harping on about how much I like, which is having a really quite simple core system, but then doing a lot with it. So in case I've given a really short version of the intro, but Fist, it seems like it's been around for a little while. This is the Ultra edition that is on Kickstarter right now, and it's so this is sort of the expanded edition, and there's lots of adventure modules for it and little supplements and things like that. But I'm just looking at the core book today. So, you belong to a legendary rogue mercenary unit called Fist. You're a soldier of fortune who doesn't fit into mainstream society. So, yeah, the trailer on the Kickstarter is very A-Team. And it seems like it's like A-Team, but paranormal, which I think is a strong fit. It is. I love that the presentation is quite serious, but some of the content is a little bit kind of G.I. Joe and campy. But it's all presented with, as far as I can tell, a bit of a straight face, which I like that as a kind of balance. So let's have a look. Traits are the building blocks of your characters. Each trait grants you 3 things: a special skill or benefit, an item for your inventory, and a modification to your stats. Cool. Picking a handful of traits generates a complete character. Okay, when a character advances, they can choose to take another trait. So these are like the building blocks of your character, exactly like it says there. So we have a character sheet, attributes: forceful, tactical, creative, and reflexive. Nice. Choose 2 traits from the index or roll 2d666. And I'll be honest, I did get a little bit excited when I saw that this had D666 tables, because I like a D66 table. I think 36 items is a good amount, where it feels like there's lots in there, but when you come to writing 36, it's actually not that many to write. D666 is another matter. That's what, 196? I think someone else can do the maths on that. No, 216. I think on a D66 table, D666 table. I like that you roll from this random huge list of traits, and I like, well, we'll get to it. Sometimes when I see these kind of big numbers, like the infamous D1000 tables in Realm of Chaos, I sometimes worry that the table is either padded with uninteresting stuff, or you've got these entries where it's like multiple numbers span across a single entry, so it's not really D666 different items. It seems like that's not the case here, but we'll get to that. So you've got your attributes: inventory, armor, HP, and war dice. So your attributes start at 0, and your traits will boost them up. Your inventory gives you items as well. Sorry, your traits give you items for your inventory. Fighting unarmed is the worst of 2d6 damage. Characters start with 0 armor, 6 HP. Oh, come on. I mean, no. Okay, I'm not going to be like, you should roll for HP, because I understand these are mercenaries. They should start with 6 HP. That's fine. War dice represent grit, spirit, and luck. You can spend a war die to add d6 whenever anyone rolls the dice, and they're consumable. Once you use it, it's gone. Okay, nice. And you take a standard issue item. Oh, plus d6 max HP, so you do get some rolling HP at character creation. That's fine. Or 3. Plus 1d6 war die. Okay, so you're choosing between these 3 things. And the standard issue items are like knives, field rations, pistol. Okay. And here we go. This is the first example. I just kept spotting these little nuggets when I was looking through the game. This emergency insertion thing here. If your character dies, create a fresh character while play continues. When you're ready to deploy, jump into the fray and roll 2d6. And this is how their deployment goes. So just today I was writing a section on character death and how to deal with it. But they've just got it here. It's just ready to go. It's just if your character dies, the next character is just going to like parachute in. And it's just all dealt with in one nice little procedure here. Okay, so I think we have some sample characters here. So they each have 2 traits. And yeah, it's good to have some sample characters. I like the artwork. It's really cool. I'm really... So I kickstart full transparency. I kickstarted this at the print level to get the print box. Upon speaking to the developers of the game, they might be able to get me one slightly early. I know I'm cashing in all of my selling out cred. It's gone. I'm claiming all these free benefits of getting something a little bit early. So I might be able to get the print copy slightly earlier. But I am super excited to read this through in print, because it just feels... It really reminds me of when I looked through Traveller. I think some of it is to do with the layout, but also just the... I don't know, we'll come back to the Traveller thing, because it's not really like Traveller, but I'll explain later on why it reminds me of that Traveller book. We're all over the place a bit tonight. It's been a few weeks since I've done one of these, so forgive me if it's a little bit chaotic. It's been a busy day today, so my brain is a little bit fried. But yeah, we can deal with a little bit of chaos. So these are our sample characters. I think let's try and like make a character. Let's get our character sheet going. Okay, no, I mean, it literally is. I was looking for like the next section of character creation, but this is it. So we're choosing 2 traits. Let's do it. Let's get the traits. So, traits. As you can see, there are however many D666s. I think it's 216. Someone can... Sorry, 218, 216, something like that. Someone can look it up for me. D666 gives you all these traits. And I only looked at a couple, and the 2 that I looked at were both incredible. But we're going to roll, of course we are. And I love... Again, I'm gushing, but I love character creation that just has you mashing 2 things together. There was one or more versions of Gamma World did this. I think the 4th edition of Gamma World had this, especially where you like picked 2 things and mashed them together, and it kind of made your character. It's kind of what I did with the game formerly known as Void Heist, which is now known as Blighters, where you pick like 2 things and mash them together. It's as old as like picking a character, like a class and a race, I guess. But here they're just really interesting. So pray that I roll some good ones here. 331. So our first trait, hypnosis. Your sustained state of self-hypnosis maximizes efficiency but requires a suspended sense of self. Anytime you do something risky while hypnotized, you can reroll 1 die, keeping the lower result. If you muster any sentiment, your hypnosis ends for the rest of the mission. And we get a nutrient slurry and -2 creative. I thought we were already starting at like... Yeah, we're starting at 0. So I've forgotten the name of the rest of them. It was like tactical, creative, reflexive, and the one that I can't remember that was like strong. But forceful, I think, maybe. I'm so sorry that I'm doing an example of character creation and I didn't bother to learn the... We can look on here. It'll be one here. Yeah, it is forceful. Okay, so we have that, and we have hypnosis, and we have a nutrient slurry, which gives us plus 2d6 HP. We'll come back to our max HP. Okay, -2 creative. I'm guessing that keeping the lower results is good in this case. So roll twice, keep lowest is going to be my very loose summary of that. And then what else other than being into hypnosis? What does our character have? 251. Flurry. Once per mission, you may enter a flurry state during combat. In your flurry state, you may choose to instantly roll damage against anyone who hurts you. Doing so ends the state. When you leave your flurry state, take d6 damage from overexertion. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We get +2 reflexive. And an energy drink. And you know what? I like that one. But let's see what else we can get. Oh, and let's roll our max HP. Let's do it properly. So it was like D6 plus 6, wasn't it? Okay, 7 HP. And we got to pick one more thing, didn't we? From so we could choose a standard issue item, more HP, or a war dice. I think we'll choose a standard issue item. We'll give them... I think this a knife kind of makes sense for this guy. There we go. And now let's do the next one. So we'll roll their HP first. So that'll be 10 HP. And then let's get our rolls going. Wait, let me get to the traits list. Sorry, it's taking me a minute to find things on this page tonight. So we are 116. Amateur. You have no formalised military training. Civilians always listen to you and tend to trust you, but you can never pass for a soldier. So we get civilian outfit and -1 forceful. That is not a great start. I'll be honest. And then 5, 4, 5. See, my gut tells me the higher we roll, the more useful it's going to be. 545. Snatcher. You're an alien poorly puppeteering a technically dead human body with a killing touch. If you do not consume one human brain without anyone finding out one's permission, you will melt into a puddle and die. We have poison fingertips. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I wanted. So we have poison fingertips. I love it. Again, it just makes a beautiful combination with the fact that we've rolled like generic boring civilian and also alien body snatcher. So that was -2 creative. We're not a very creative team. But we have our alien in hiding and our sort of hypno martial arts guy. So there we go. And I know this is something that I say over and over again, but I love it when character creation tells you about the setting. So I haven't even read anything in the book that tells me that aliens exist in this world. I could possibly glean it from the fact that it's kind of a sci-fi mercenary game, but I've had the first instance I have of finding out that aliens exist is in discovering that my character is secretly an alien. Yeah, I think I've got the HP. Yeah, starting HP starts at 1. So yeah, but you get the point. You don't watch these videos to get an actual instruction as to how to make a character. We're just doing this to get a little bit of a feel of the game. Okay, so rolling the dice. When you do something risky, you need to roll the dice. You don't need to roll if it's something you could easily accomplish. You shouldn't roll when it's something completely impossible. So again, it's all basic stuff, but it's always good to see it kind of laid out. Choose an attribute. Oh, I see. So creative is kind of the social one. That makes sense. So roll the dice, roll 2d6 and add them together, and add the attribute you're using. The total determines your degree of success. No matter what happens, the referee always narrates how the fictional situation changes. It never stays the same, even when things are going smoothly. Oh, so it's Apocalypse, Powered by the Apocalypse style thing, which is absolutely solid. I quite like 2d6. And to be honest, I might sound unenthused because the more I look at different systems and games, the less I am actually bothered about what die resolution they use. Even like whether there's partial successes or not, whether it's a bell curve or not. I think a lot of that stuff, I'm not saying it's not important and it doesn't matter at all. I think it does matter to some extent, but I'm so much more interested in the rest of the stuff that makes up the game, the stuff that makes the actual game happen. So like character creation, to me, that is so much more interesting than how things are actually dealt with in terms of the sort of resolution of the game. Right, so combat works same as anything else. Roll the dice to attack and deal the damage listed for your weapon. If you're being attacked, you roll into avoid. Rolling a failure in active combat always incurs damage. Yeah, this all makes sense. We've got the emergency insertion we know about. Once per mission, the Dean can send out a rendezvous signal. They will describe a nearby rendezvous point and the obstacles to reaching it. As long as the players remain at the rendezvous point, they are safe. Okay, that's nice. So you've got a kind of built-in mechanic for like restocking partway through a mission. And again, like I've just said, this is the kind of rule and mechanic that I'm interested in, because it's so much more interesting to me than just like how do you work out a success or a failure. Tactical Infinity, nice to see it get a mention. And yeah, some technical jargon that we're probably okay with. Note on high lethality. So basically saying that your character may well die. You will not be able to win every fight, and active combat is never your only option. We've got some player guide. I like this sort of thing. It's Cairn is one of the games that made it kind of, that I first saw doing this, of having like a player's guide section talking about how to be a good player of the game in various different ways. There's no one correct Fist game world, and if there was, it certainly wouldn't be locked up in the back room at Claymore. So yeah, it's yeah, this is worse than the Budapest job, or I helped JFK slay a vampire, or my character's from Mars. It's more real than anything in this book. So like I said, it's a really cool approach that the characters you create kind of shape the world, and it's going to be a bit different each time you play it. Example of play, I'm not going to read it, but I do always appreciate them. Okay, so we have getting started, role-playing games, a little bit of a introduction, GM principles, which is nice. Yeah, don't hide important information. Don't pull punches. Yeah, all good stuff. Agency is the catalyst for immersion. That's good to see. And again, this is all stuff where if you read a lot of blogs and you've been around the block a few times, it might almost sound obvious, but there are still people that read these things for the first time, and it sounds bizarre to say it, but there'll be some people who might read this book and they've never heard about the concept of like agency in games, even though it's something that quite a lot of us talk about a lot. So I do always appreciate seeing it in there. Okay, we've got lots more referee guides. So again, I think we're kind of done with the rules. We're now just on to what we do with them. So yeah, how to make missions. And maybe part of the reason that this really landed with me is I've been reading through and preparing for a campaign of 5 Parsecs from Home, which is a solo or cooperative miniatures game that has a structure based around generating like random missions that your little team of guys will go into, and there's lots of randomness in there. So you might hit a mission that's really difficult, you might kind of breeze through a mission, and I really like that kind of mission structure. It's so different to what I'm used to with the very sprawling nature of like an RPG sandbox, the typical kind of, this game is just going to go on and we can go into this mega dungeon and we can explore it at our own pace, and the session might end partway through with the exploration. I really appreciate that clear mission structure, especially without the random generation. It's really cool. Yeah, I might roll up a mission if we get the chance. I've seen some mission tables in here. I remember this section. Yeah, obviously tactics, espionage, and action. It's nice to just lay out all this stuff. Like, I don't know. I think I've seen so many GM advice sections that kind of, I don't know, it's hard to get the balance between not overwhelming the player with information, or the reader with information, but also just having enough stuff in there that it actually feels robust and interesting. And it's nicely laid out and it's concise, but it still feels in depth, and I like that. I like this information about loops. This is another one that I read. It kind of talks about making a place feel real, I guess, by having the sort of the behavior of characters, whether it's as simple as like patrols or like what civilians are doing throughout a typical day. And it fits into that kind of, it all feeds into this feel of like planning for a mission. So the back section of this book, called the Intelligence Matrix, which is an amazing section that we will get to, is full of pre-made content, inspirational random tables, and do-it-yourself guides. So this is an example of how we do it. Yeah, so choose a starting point, add some characters. You know what, I'm not going to go through this. This is really useful to have a guide through this procedure, but we're going to just do it ourselves, I think. And then we've got an example mission, which again is really useful to have, but we're going to make our own. how to actually run the game as like a campaign or a sort of one shot. Making your own traits and stuff. Again, love it. Like, how many core books for RPGs actually have like a really solid guide for making your own content, and not just like designing an adventure, but like creating a new class or something like that. It's not something you see very often, and I really like it here. Supplies. Okay, here we go. So these are the traits. So these are the traits that our characters could have. We'll have a little look through, because I liked some of them that we rolled more than others. I think it's the dream is when you get like a really, and I don't mean this in a bad way, a really mundane one, and then a really bonkers one to go with it. Your touch grants sapience. Once per mission, you may touch an object or animal and give it human intelligence, movement, and speech. Those you awaken in this way are under no obligation to take it well. Armored, you get a suit of power armor. Assassination. Once per mission, you may instantly kill up to 3 weak enemies who are completely unaware of your presence without rolling any dice. You could be a chef. Contortionist. Listen, I'm going to be completely transparent now. I'm excited about this because I will hopefully try and actually run this or play this. But I'm also excited because this list is just really cool, and I am definitely going to steal stuff from it. Next time I need to write a list of abilities or list of special powers, I'm probably going to hit up this list and see which ones I like. But, you know, that's the game. You could be a cyborg with superhuman, ultra-human agility. Doors. When you enter through a door, you may emerge through any other door you have encountered. Love it. A druid. Again, like, I love how hard it goes into this idea of having things like this doors and druid ability next to, I don't know, I guess cruel is kind of a mundane one. I just love it, and I'm not going to look through every single one because I'll be here all night and it doesn't make for great content. but yeah, I really like them. You could be an animal hybrid. You can make illusions. You can get a mobility aid that's tricked out with gadgets, like a super wheelchair or something. Once per mission, you may use your computerized monster index to summon and command a monster from the barcode of any real-life object you have with you. So this is like the barcode battler thing. I feel like this gives away the age of the person who wrote this entry. Don't get me started on barcode battler. I had a friend who had the barcode battler electronic game thing, and I was so jealous, and he kept telling me, he said, it's rubbish, it's no good, it's not like the advert. And I think like it took batteries that he didn't have, and every time I'd go to his house he'd be like, oh no, it's no good. But I think I always thought he was holding out on me, but I think it probably was shit now I think about it. Okay, so yeah, lots of traits, lots of traits. Oh, and it's nice to have them in a little list here. Again, I just keep thinking like of the combinations. I would love the idea that we got that civilian one where it's like you will never pass for a soldier, everyone knows you're a civilian. And Xeno is like, you're clearly an alien and you can't blend into groups of humans. So you kind of you have to find a way to make that contradiction work of like, well, military people don't trust you, but humans won't trust you. So what do you even do? And I think I would like to embrace that challenge. Right, roles index. So this is, what are we actually looking at here? So are we into the section of, this is just like inspirational tables, isn't it? So roles, I did skip how roles work. I think you can just slap one of these onto your character. Yeah, it lets you advance if you do a certain thing linked to your role. So I think I might have missed over this section. But yeah, it gives you a sort of a little incentive, to use a dirty word, to act a certain way. But I think, even aside from the incentive, it's nice to have a little role. Avenger describes someone who wronged you and what they did. Advance if something you did brought you closer to exacting your revenge. But, even just having that without the incentive would be a fun thing to have. Now, intelligence matrix. Is this the rest of the book? No, there is more stuff. But the intelligence matrix is now a good chunk of the book. So, the intelligence matrix is a toolbox for constructing an infinite array of game objects, missions, campaigns, gameplay styles, and stories in any way you like. Within, you'll find a comprehensive rundown of the moving parts which comprise the game Fist. Weapons, items, characters, vehicles, enemies, locations, and more. As well as inspirational prompts for missions and a collection of miscellaneous toys like weapon skins, randomized magic symbols, etc. This, to me, is the bit that completely sold me on the game. The traits I liked. But when I saw this, so we're less than halfway, well, we're about halfway through the book, and we're just getting into this section, and it's just stuff. And this is what I mean when I say it reminded me a little bit of Traveller. I have like mixed feelings on Traveller. I do have a lot of affection for it. I came to it late in life, but the thing I liked about Traveller was all the way character creation works and the world creation system, and there's a lot of tables in there. It felt like it was trying to be like a procedural game you could just kind of procedurally run on the fly, and I think people can do that. But for me, coming to it at this point in my life, I found I just wanted more in there to support that kind of style of play. Like, it has encounter tables, but I would like a little bit more. I don't know, they kind of felt like, I don't want to be like slagging off a 40-year-old game, but yeah, I feel like I wanted a little bit more from that, a little bit more excitement, and this has a lot of that. So let's jump in. So we've got a nice little rules summary. This is kind of just a summary of everything we've had so far. So, what a waste of time that was. We could have just come straight here. Optional rules, ammo tracking, languages, etc. The Die of Fate. Does someone want to tell me where this came from? I know that I had it in Into the Yard as a look roll, but I did not invent this. The idea that if you don't know anything else, you got no idea what else to do, you can just roll a d6, and if it's high, it's good for the players. If it's low, it's bad for the players. I know this is probably like something people have been doing since day one, but which was the first book to like have that in there as an actual like piece of guidance? I feel like it was something to do. I don't know. I don't want to guess. Does anyone know which one that was? Spectating. Okay. So the referee may declare certain areas to be non-insertion zones, such as the boss fight arenas or heavily guarded choke points. Okay, so like small little moments when it would be weird to have characters just dropping in after dying immediately. So they spectate, they get a war die, and they can use it. That's cool. Yeah, and we've got some alternative forms of advancement. Strict initiative, we're not going to need that. Well, no, what is strict initiative? At the start of each mission, establish a turn order for the team. And that's the turn order for the team for the whole mission. Yeah, that sounds nice. I like that. World of Dungeons. I wanted to say it was John Harper, but I didn't want to give him credit until I until I discovered that for sure. Yeah, World of Dungeons. I've told the story many times about how people still come and tell me that they liked World of Dungeons because I'm credited on it, and I say okay, and I constantly forget that I am credited on that just because John Harper asked if he could use the equipment list from it was like an old version of Into the Odd. He said, can I just use the equipment list from it for a game I'm working on? And I said, yeah, sure, if you put a credit in, that's appreciated. And he did it, and World of Dungeons blew up. So now every now and then someone will say, oh, I really enjoyed World of Dungeons, and I can say, cool, thanks. So mission generator, let's do a mission. Okay, right, we're rolling. You know what time it is. So let's go. How do we do it? So the dossier says someone is trying to, but we don't need to read this. Let's just roll. These are a good test for like how an idiot would run this, because I know that I'm just jumping through it. 15. The dossier says a government agency is trying to 55. A government agency is trying to sow division and discord. Never. Which will 61 spread a horrible illness. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. No, I'm not touching it. Harm local children. Yeah, I'm fine with that. And but a divine entity is interfering with their plan. That sort of situation. A government agency is trying to sow division and discord, which will harm local children, but a divine entity is interfering. I just love it. Oh, mission rewards. So we do have some actual 2d6 tables scattered throughout here. 7, of course. We get a weapon with a tag and a skin. A 1 in d6 chance of d6 tags. Oh, right. So let's roll our weird weapon that we're going to get now. Why not? So it doesn't have d6 tags, but it will have a tag and a skin. So this is how this matrix works. Is there's lots of not quite nested tables, but that will now point me to somewhere else. So let's find a weapon. Weapons. Let's roll. So what's the weapon that we're going to get for completing this mission? And we will go back and flesh out the mission properly. 52. A rocket launcher. That's the kind of motivation that players will get on board with. A rocket launcher with a it had 1 tag. 41. It's a light rocket launcher. Ooh. He wants a light rocket launcher. Come on now. And it has a skin. Where's the weapon skin thing? Because I don't know why, but it just tickled me that it existed. Weapon skins. It's a D666 table of like just weapon skins. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, how does your gun look fancy? It takes me back to playing Modern Warfare 2 when I was like 21 or whatever. 641 trickles blood. Oh god, so this light rocket launcher that trickles blood. So it's like a vampire, I don't know, it's like a living rocket launcher. I'm imagining like a Tyranid weapon, like a bio rocket launcher. Anyway, let's get back here. So that was right. I apologize for all this jumping. That was our mission reward. Introducing twists. Okay, so at the last moment when the story seems primed to reach its climax, the ref can re-roll on one of the mission generator tables for a sudden plot twist. So let's do a d4 to see which table. Let's imagine that we're towards the end of the mission now. Table number 3. We're going to re-roll on that and get 63. So it's not actually, we think it's going to just harm local children, but actually it's going to turn the Cold War hot. So that's our twist at the end. And yeah, in case you can't tell, I just love this sort of stuff. I don't know. I'm surprised more games don't do it. Like, you don't need to even explain that much. You can just have it be very broad strokes. And perhaps it just appeals to the way that I run games. But it's like I do with Spark tables in Electric Bastion Land. For me, just having that starting point gets the ball rolling with my imagination for running the game and setting up this scenario. And this is so much more useful to me than having something with a lot of detail and where everything is like so clearly laid out. Cyclops, his fist seen through a dark mirror, working from the very top of the military-industrial complex. So they're the evil mercenary group, I guess. They're the man, yeah. So you can generate your own version of Cyclops. So who's Cyclops in our world? 46. Possible origins. Managed by an AI with big plans for humanity. And where is their high command? Europe. No, North America. Sorry. That's boring. Come on. 7. Oh, Antarctica. I like that Antarctica is the most... is on the 7, so Antarctica is the most likely result. That's nice. So we have some example Cyclops people. Bill Hook Machete is a great phrase to see in there. And here's, yeah, so we've used this already, the generating the weapons table. And I should have said, for the rocket launcher, it's just pretty much a damage score. And then it's up to you to work out how a rocket launcher is different to a sniper rifle, I guess. And, you know, that sounds like I'm saying something bad. I don't mind that. I think that's absolutely fine, especially in a game like this where there's so much guidance and so much support. If this was like a one-page thing where it just said, oh, rocket launchers and sniper rifles both do D6 plus 2 damage, that would be different. But here there's so much support that I think it's fine to then just rely on these little sparks of information. So we had our weapon tags. There's some cool stuff in there. Common items. Cyclops gadgets. Vehicles. Oh, come on. Let's say that our team has a vehicle, because if we are leaning into like the Saturday morning cartoon vibe, they need to have a vehicle. 45. A large boat, yes. A barge or a yacht. Barge makes me think of like a canal boat, and I can't do that. A yacht. Yeah. A yacht sounds great. And what weapons does this yacht have? 3. It has side hazards like spikes or laser jets. It's got to be like... Yeah, so it's like a like a Mad Max yacht. And yeah, again, I just love that you can then be like, well, you know, I'm going to go to the weapon tags and I'm going to apply a weapon tag to this this yacht and see what I get. It has a hood. So it scans hostiles. When you kill something new, the referee will tell you a useful fact about it. So it's Nightboat. It's Nightboat with spikes all over it. Okay, you got base upgrades. And then here we go. Right. This is where I was really blown away with just how much stuff is in this book. It is the enemies. So let me take a drink. So with Electric Bastion, and what I tried to do was, I had, rather than having lots of pre-made non-player characters, I had a 2-page spread for each different type of character that existed in this world. So there was a 2-page spread for people, there was a 2-page spread for machines, there was one for aliens, there was one for mockeries, and there was one for abominations. And then in there was tables and ideas and some templates and like guidance for how to make your own versions of these things. And I did that for like 4 or 5 different types of thing. In here, there's like, well, there's just like a million of them. There's so many different ones. And it's so cool. There's, cults, insurgents, corporations, criminals, aliens, agencies, robots, squads, experiments, monsters, animals, anomalies, soldiers, spies, politicians, scientists, and each one has all these tables and these little story bits. And I just love it so much. It would be so useful to have that at the table. And on top of that, there is also just a bunch of like pre-made characters as well that are like ready to go. So if you need a Cyclops goon, then you've got one. They're here. They're ready to go. But if you want to make your own, you can say, well, okay, then fine. We're going to make an enemy squad. So it's a catch-all term for all military, paramilitary groups smaller than an army. So this is going to be like our rival mercenary team, I guess, that aren't Cyclops. Well, maybe they are Cyclops. We don't know. We're going to roll. So let's roll down this table and see what we get. So reputation. What are these guys? They're laughable. Okay, it's not a great start. But, let's see. So they're a laughable enemy. They are commanded by a corporation, which we will go and roll in a moment. Their name of this laughable mercenary team are 63 Ugly Duckling. I feel bad for them now. I feel like these should be like our underdogs. What's the feature of this squad? 52. Smoke and flashbangs. I mean, I like it. And what's their theme? 24. They clearly think they're the protagonists. Like I said, it just works. So they're like the underdogs, I guess, and they're just like a shitty version of like a protagonist mercenary team. So they're, rather than being like a dark mirror of our Fist squad, they're just like a rubbish mirror of them. That's awesome. Ordinal M has spotted perhaps my favourite table in the thing, but we'll get to that. So yeah, let's so there's so much in here. Celebrities, civilians, politicians. I've already read through it, and I'm so excited to actually just dip into this and even like start to use it. Let's make an alien, because aliens are fun, right? Oh, we didn't roll a corporation. So who's the corporation that's running this terrible mercenary team that I actually kind of feel bad for? Corporation. And this is a good test, because there's lots of games that have like a corporation generator table, and sometimes they're kind of boring. So this is a good test to see if it's actually good. Spoiler, it probably is. So what's the sector of this corporation? They are in the medical science sector. Again, I think these guys just think they're the protagonists. But I need to know why. Why aren't they the protagonists? They need some kind of evil twist. The name of the corporation is Arakawa Industries. A feature is an escape tunnel. And what's their scheme? 35. Ignore a disaster caused by cost cutting. So what's the disaster? It continues. We're going down the rabbit hole here. We need one of those conspiracy boards. So what's the disaster that the corporation that hired the shitty mercenary team is trying to cover up? The scale of the disaster is world. Good. The response has been confused. The description: a volcanic eruption that affects the whole world, and this medical science company has been trying to cover it up. How on earth are they covering up this volcano? I don't know. A feature of this is raider gangs. Okay, so I'm definitely thinking of like mole people coming out of the volcano. And what's the impact? 54. Officials all but openly hoarding supplies. So the world's going to shit, but somehow this corporation is like covering it up. Maybe if they're like medical science, they own like certain like institutes or hospitals, and they're just like walling up and like keeping their patients in the dark, so they don't know that this global disaster is happening. And yeah, they have an escape tunnel, so I guess that maybe they've taken their patients underground. Legends of people who left behind a legacy. spells. And then we've got all our pre-made entities, which are really cool. Weapon skins we've already done. Mission prompts. So if you don't want to go through all that rolling to make a mission, you can just roll D266. So let's say this is the mission that our terrible mercenary team are on. 112. Alien imposter in an enclosed space. That's your mission. Cassette tapes. This is so cool because I rolled one of these earlier and I got... The result that I got was a message from my future self, comma, cryptic. Which is incredible. 415. What cassette tape? Achilles' Last Stand by Led Zeppelin. So a lot of them are songs. Maybe half of them are songs here and half are just weird things. Is there a number station here? There's got to be. There is a number station. Are number stations still a thing? Is that one of the great harmless conspiracy theories that's fallen by the wayside? Magical symbols, operation code names. So what's the operation code name for this weird alien cover-up? It is called Operation Genetic Drift. Combat. I love this combat behaviors one because this is something that I would use over and over again. It's just a 2d6 roll and it just gives you a little bit of guidance for, well, what do these enemies do? I'm a big fan of these things where you have kind of semi-random behavior by enemies. I think it's all well and good saying that, well, the referee or the GM can just decide what the character does, but having that little roll, again, it just gets the ball rolling and it makes them do unexpected things. We got a 7, which is to use cover, but later on in the combat they might decide to do 11, which is an area attack, so maybe they're calling in fire support. Later on they might focus attack, so they really try and get one enemy down. And the good thing I like about that is if you roll focus attack and they all concentrate their fire on one player character, that's the kind of thing that as a GM you might feel bad doing it normally, because sometimes it feels bad to kind of have a character get ganged up on because it's very effective. And often games will kind of gently suggest that the characters should kind of go one-on-one with a range of enemies, but if you get that result as the referee, guilt-free, you can go in and say, right, yeah, they're focusing again on one enemy. And again, you've got faction actions, hit locations, just nice little tables. Love it. Choke scores. I didn't read about choke scores. It's like, I guess, the kind of like the stress mechanic. Yeah. So yeah, I missed that mechanic, but I think I saw something about it being kind of like a building up your stress levels as things happen. Partial success, yes, but that's really nice to have, especially that it's split into like D6 tables. So if I get a partial success on a mental roll, so if we're doing research and I roll and I get partial success and I'm struggling, I'm thinking, well, I don't know, I can just roll one of these to say I get a 5, you need more time. And again, it gives you that little bit of detachment where these things are happening slightly out of your control as the referee. You're just refereeing the world. You're not necessarily pulling all of the strings, and I think that's good for the game in my experience. Random downtime events. Got some blank maps, some character sheets, and the back of the book. So this is, without going too over the top, I can't think of an RPG that I've read this year, a new RPG that I've read this year, that has got me this excited. I really can't. And this isn't like my game of the year thing. I don't do that, but I just can't think of anything that got me this instantly excited. And I've said before that I think so often we'll get, I can only really speak for myself, but I will get a game and I will be somewhat excited by it, but then I've got to try and get the players excited about it, and I've got to try and arrange a game, which can be a nightmare, as we all know. I think it's easy to underrate the ability for a game to get people excited quickly. And this is a game that I think I could sell to people really quickly if I wanted them to play in a game I was running. It's a game that I think I would be thrilled to sit down and start to prepare a game for. And that can't be overlooked, I think. That's really important. So this is currently on Kickstarter. Like I've said, this is not an advert. And it is going to be, I think it's running for a couple more weeks. But I strongly recommend, if you're interested, you can also go and just download the whole thing for free while the Kickstarter is running, which I think is a really bold and really clever and really generous move. But this is Fist. I am completely besotted by it. I am really impressed. Like I said before, it's so good, it makes me angry in a good way. And yeah, I've said enough high praise about this game. Go and check it out. So, as always, I've been Chris McDowell, and this has been Bastionland Broadcast. If you want to find out more about the games I make, you can go to bastionland.com. If you want to support the stream, you can go to patreon.com/Bastionland. If you want to talk about games, there's a link on bastionland.com to a Discord server. And did somebody say Kickstarter? Is there anything else cool coming to Kickstarter anytime soon? I don't know really. Let's take a look. On cold Miston hills, beast witsome and fell. In holdings and havens the vassals adwell. Seers know the all, the start and the end. Myths hushed aloud, to which truth must upend. Aside vagabonds on snakeline trails, knights render these stories, are wrenched from their veils. For the oath, for the glory, through sorrow and ache. The city, that quest to which no knight can make. Bastion will always be the only city that matters.